what he's saying. So.
Isaac, good evening. Watching from Weatherford, Texas. Such an awesome win, Isaac says. And let's just start right there. What an amazing battle for BYU at Arkansas in SEC country. That's what we're all still abuzz about. That's what AFR, which just finished over on the BYU TV app, focused on today. How BYU beat Arkansas. And we kind of had smiles on our faces as we broke down the video because it actually happened. And we had the proof.
And we said that there was a chance that we liked the matchup, that we didn't think we thought BYU was going to be better defensively than they were the year before, that they would contain Jefferson better than they did the year before. They did all of that. But when they started off down 14-0, we were all kind of looking at each other going, whoa, is this just too bad? Is this too awful a start to be able to bounce back? To their credit, to the coaching staff's credit, they kept them calm. Yeah. To the credit of the senior and junior leadership on this team, they didn't panic. I think they looked up at the scoreboard and said, wait a minute here. Yeah, we're down 14-0, but there's still 12 minutes left in the first quarter, for Pete's sakes. We can let this thing go one way or another. We can either quit right now and just get blown out by 60, or we can decide that there's a lot of game left and knuckle down and just slowly get back in this thing, which is exactly what they did, and amazing.
But let's start right there with the defense and the push. Our defensive line, that was about as good as we've seen them play in a long, long time, especially up against a P5 offensive line. The same line that pushed BYU around last year in Provo got pushed back on Saturday night in Fayetteville.
Yeah, BYU was so aggressive with the way they played. And if you got a chance to just watch it, just premiered at 5 o'clock Mountain Time, went from 5 to 6, leads into the show AFR. We had a chance to look at some film, and Dave Nixon and I were able to break down some of the things that D-line did. And everybody on that front played well. And honestly, talking to the coaches, this is probably the best game that Tyler Batty has ever played at BYU.
And he's the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week.
He was phenomenal in this game. John Nelson played great. Mangelson was mentioned in the chat. Mangelson had a phenomenal football game. Hawes played well. There's not a person on that D-line that didn't play well. Bagna played well. Everyone played well. They were beating the man in front of them, which they couldn't do last year. They were getting penetration. The linebackers were playing downhill. And I'm glad to see somebody mention our walk-on strong safety, Ethan Slade. BYU played 79 snaps on defense. Ethan Slade's the only player on that football team that played every single snap on defense. He played 79 snaps on defense. Wow. Jacob Robinson was close. He played 77. He missed 2 plays, so he was out for 2 plays. But how about that? Our walk-on strong safety, who's been playing phenomenal since game 1 and played 79 snaps and had a great accounting and a good grade in this last game.
Ed from St. George knows what we're talking about. He and 6 family members flew out to the game as we're reading off our live stream. Isaac is impressed with Eddie Heckard, one heck of a player. Absolutely. Here's the stat that jumped off the page to me. On third downs, the Razorbacks were held to 2 of 13. Last year in Provo, they were 13 of 15 on third down. Couldn't get off the field. And in the rematch, 2 of 13 on third down, just 7 second-half points. BYU wins the turnover battle 2-1. They forced 6 punts. We saw the Arkansas punter one time last year in Provo. 6 punts at home.
And another big factor that maybe you blame completely on Arkansas, but you can't completely blame it on Arkansas. You got to give BYU a little credit. Were the 14 penalties for 120 or 145 yards, was it? Or 125 yards?
They were devastating yards.
I think it was 145 yards. I wrote down 125, but I think it was 145 actually now that I think back.
They seemed to get tired and they just held.
What was happening was BYU's pass rush was so aggressive that they were reaching out and grabbing onto people. Yeah, there were some mental errors with false starts and alignments, but there were enough holding penalties to go around, and holding penalties happen when you're getting beat. And BYU was relentless. BYU was in better condition. They were big and they were physical, and they got it done. So credit BYU's D-line and backers for their relentless pass rush for some of those penalty yards.
4 sacks. And I mentioned Tyler Batty, 9 tackles, 1.5 sacks. And on the offensive side, Keaton Slovis was 13 of 25, no interceptions, 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, there's many who look at that and go, wow, when's Keaton going to show up, start playing? We want to see 400 yards here or there or whatever. what Slovis brings to BYU, and there will be days when it's a track meet, but what he has brought to BYU, and we've seen it in these first 3 games. First one wasn't great for the offense. Second one's a little better. Last Saturday was good enough on the road in the SEC, but that was his 35th P5 start. Did he ever look rattled? Even when he got sacked, kind of get up, and there was never this, oh, what is he going to do next? And he just put BYU in positions to win, and when they were in the red zone, where they remained perfect, they scored touchdowns.
And he made some really good moves in the pocket. His pocket presence and a couple of big catches that the catches were so eye-popping, it took away from how good Keaton was with his footwork in the pocket and getting the ball out. People remember that seam route going from right to left on your television to Isaac Rex, where Isaac kind of stabbed at the ball and brought it down. There was a pretty fierce pass rush, and Keaton moved a little to the left, slid up into the pocket, was getting hit as he let the ball go, and delivered a football. Really, really impressive throw. And you don't see that because the ball comes out and you watch the great catch that Isaac makes. And then the touchdown grab that was the SportsCenter play of the day to Chase Roberts in the other end zone going left to right on your television. The little bit of movement. So Keaton had a big-time pass rush coming backside on his left side. And they were fan protecting, so they fanned the guard back to pick it up late. Lapawahu, he stepped over to his right, slid up in the pocket, had to throw it sidearm to get it out, had to throw it over number 2, the corner, just out of his reach, and in a spot that only Chase Roberts could get it. And barely get it, he did.
With one hand.
With one hand on the back of the ball.
He never even got the other hand on the ball. He just used the one.
The catch was so spectacular that lost in all of that was the phenomenal job of footwork and pocket presence that Keaton Slovis had in that play. Yeah. So I was very impressed with Keaton. And in this game, he managed the game. And think about it. The only turnover Keaton has through 3 games is where he got smacked and the ball came straight out. I call them pop-up interceptions, which I don't think should go against the quarterback. He hasn't thrown a ball into coverage that's gotten intercepted this year. And he's held onto the football and hasn't fumbled.
Hey, live streamers, tell us right now what you thought of that Chase Roberts catch. And with the exception of Puka's last year against Boise State, have you seen a better one? Let us know, and we'll share it with everybody. L.J. Martin rushed for 77 yards against a team that hadn't given up anything on the ground. Ran for 2 touchdowns. That 45-yarder to tie the game at 14 was spectacular. And we showed you on AFR, Kingsley Suamata'ia's block, which sprung Martin, was the kind of block that gets you in the first round of the NFL draft.
Well, and that one was so spectacular because the collision was so intense. He pulled, along with Lapawahu pulled as well. And Lapawahu was the guard, so he was first, and they came in tandem, and Lapawahu turned up and sealed inside, and Kingsley kicked out, and then LJ ran up inside for that big touchdown. But there was a play later, and we talked about it on AFR, down on the goal line, the other touchdown of LJ Martin, when Kingsley just pancaked the tackle down into the middle of the line, and Isaac Rex came down and cleaned up the linebacker, and it was an easy touchdown for L.J. Martin from close range.
Jonathan says that catch was amazing, such a great pass and focus by Roberts to pull it in. Well said.
Yeah, Mike Just Me says a catch can only be great if the ball's there to catch it. That's what I'm
true.
Talking about right there, Mike. Thanks for that. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That is true. Parker Kingston, the redshirt freshman, has been a big, pleasant surprise. 3 catches for 46 yards, and he threw a touchdown pass, and he scored a touchdown. How about that pass to Deion Smith? And that was the one that really got BYU back in the game, made it 14-7, and you could feel the Cougars just kind of go, okay, all right, let's get the ball back and keep it going. And they did. Les, good to have you with us from Santa Fe. He says, hello, everyone. Go Cougs. Oh, you're right. Bullseye Katoa did have a great catch.
That was a great catch last year.
That was in the Boca Raton Bowl, right? Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, where he just laid out, completely laid out and caught the ball.
I'm glad you reminded us of that. That one, too, was right up there. Those are 3 phenomenal catches. Katoa, Puka, and then Roberts.
Yeah, and Les says, hey, about that fake field goal. We didn't really talk about that in AFR today.
No, because it didn't count because
there was a penalty.
Even if it had worked, it hadn't counted because of the delay game.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
I did get a chance to look at that on film. So I had a problem with when we called the fake punt the week before. The down distance and where they were in the field. I had no problem with the fake field goal there. And here's the thing. when you look at numbers, they had the right numbers of people for that to work for a first down, and they didn't execute it. And so, hey, back to the drawing board. It probably was the right play call, but you either have to have the right dudes or you've got to teach them better to execute it, because it's got to work. If you fake field goal, it has to work, or everybody always goes, why in the world would you fake field goal? So they had the correct numbers to run that play, and the guys just didn't execute it. And so they got to coach them up better. They were very fortunate that was a delay penalty.
Joel
It's
says,
a dead ball
stop
penalty.
with the fakes. Stop with the fakes. Matthew says, Arkansas fans were super nice, by the way. That's good, because BYU fans were super nice to them.
Yep.
That's how fans should be.
Yeah.
Just super nice. And then
and
let the guys fight it out on the field.
And you know what? The Arkansas fans felt like there was a little bit of debt of gratitude that needed to be paid for the way they were treated when they were in Provo the year before.
For sure.
Which made me proud. I was really, really proud of our fan base for the way they extended the red carpet to the Arkansas fans last year.
Last year, and as tradition at BYU, they hand out ice cream to the visiting fan section. Arkansas went home after last year's game, and they go, we got to do something. So they started handing out popcorn to the visiting fans. And I saw a shot on Twitter of Cougar fans getting some popcorn from the Razorbacks. Nice job. Kalani Sitake addressed the media following that game and setting the tone for the week against Kansas. This was yesterday. DJ's got him ready. Let's listen to Kalani for a couple of minutes. Keep your live streams coming, and then we'll react to what the coach has to say.
Heading after now to week 4. I'm really excited about the opportunity to play in Kansas. Had a really good experience last week in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and what a cool environment. It was obviously we're happy with the result, but just want to make sure that people know that we really enjoyed the hospitality and the competitive nature of the fans there, and obviously the things went our way and we were able to get the victory. But I hope everybody knows that we have a great appreciation for that environment, for that stadium, for the program, and for their coaches, and definitely for their fans. They're really a lot of positive feedback from our fans and their interaction with Arkansas fans. So it was a really cool environment, and man, it was loud, and what a cool place, and what a good experience, and a great experience for our players to have. And we're looking forward to another great experience this weekend, going out to Kansas and seeing their wonderful campus and being in front of their fans, and hope we'll have our faithful fans show up again, just like they did last week, and I hope they have a great experience like they did last week. So obviously, I spoke in the press conference after the game that there's improvement to be made, and looking forward to correcting the mistakes. But the great thing I can say is that our players, the energy and the effort, the physical play, their willingness to buy into everything that we've asked them to is there. And I love the resiliency and the fight in our young men to come back from 2 scores down early in the game and then do it again in the second half. I'd like to get started a lot better for us this week, but I know it's nice to see a team that can fight back when they need to. We're looking forward to having great effort again, going against another great coach. Lance Leipold's an amazing coach, and I like watching him as a leader. Have great interactions with him and his players, especially during media days. Really talented team, and you look at the things that they're able to do on offense, defense, and special teams. Tons of great size. They have a lot of returning production. You start with the quarterback, and not just the starting quarterback, but they have a couple quarterbacks that can play. But I've been able to meet their quarterback, Jalen, and had a really cool interaction with him at media days as well. So it just seemed like really great kids, and committed to their culture and their coach. And I think the world of their coach, so I know that they'll be ready to play. And I'm looking forward to trying to get our team ready this week, taking advantage of all the practice time and the preparation to play Kansas, because we'll need to be at our best to go into that environment and to compete with them. So we're looking forward to the opportunity. I'm looking forward to the opportunity for our team to get better and to improve from last week. I feel like we've improved every week, and probably need to improve even more in a lot of different ways, and a lot of fixable things we can get that done today. I said that last week. I think I said that every week now, but looking forward to the matchup and looking forward to a great team. I think Kansas is man, they do some really cool things on offense. They're able to, get 500 yards of offense and tons of points on the board, and then defense does a great job being physical and rallying and tackling well. So I think we got our work cut out for us, and we'll be excited for the challenge. So any questions you guys have?
BYU head coach Kalani Sitake kicking off the week. The game is Saturday in Lawrence. It's the first day of fall. It's going to be great weather from what we understand, and a fun game. Jayhawks are 3-0, just beat Nevada in Reno 31-24. And Blaine, you're our resident quarterback. Let's get your take on Jalen Daniels. He threw for 298 yards against the Wolfpack, 21 of 27. Seems to be really efficient. And then he's got a great running back, too.
Yeah, he's got so many weapons around him, and what Jalen does really well is he distributes the ball. So he reads defenses, and he gets the ball to the open guy. He's not one of these, I have a favorite receiver, I'm going to throw it to that guy and force it in type of a quarterback. He's a very heady guy. This season, he's completing 75% of his passes. So he's 75%, 575 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And last year, he completed 67% of his balls for 2,014 yards, 18 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. So he's a very, very efficient guy with the ball. He's not a big, tall guy like Jefferson that BYU just faced, because Jefferson's between 6'4" and 6'5". Jalen's just 6 feet tall, but he's solid. He's 215 pounds. He's a little quicker than Jefferson, maybe not quite as strong, because Jefferson's 250 pounds. And he's extremely dangerous if you don't keep him hemmed into the pocket. So effective in making plays off schedule, and he and his receivers are so on the same page. He's got a veteran group of receivers around him. So when he breaks containment and gets outside, everybody knows where they're supposed to go. And they make a ton of plays in the scramble drill. And so it's a big challenge for BYU to play against a quarterback with this kind of skill level. Remember, Kansas returns the most offensive production of any team in the NCAA this year. They have 10 returning starters and virtually all of their skill guys. So you've got Daniels back, Devin Neal at running back, who is also really skilled at 5'11" and 210. He's averaging 7.6 yards a carry. The whole season last year, he averaged over 8 yards a carry. And it's one of the most balanced offensive football teams in the country. They average 284 yards passing, 217 yards rushing. Yeah, you heard me right, 217 yards rushing, right? And so it's a really good offensive team. Their receivers are big. Arnold, 6'3". Grimm is 6 foot. He's kind of the inside guy that does a lot of dirty work, their leading guy from last year. And then on the outside, Skinner at 6'5". So those two outside guys are 6'3" and 6'5". So they create matchup problems for you. They have a big tight end who's at Fairchild, who's 260 pounds and can block and go out and catch the ball. So offensively, I feel like this is one of the most gifted, experienced groups that BYU will play all season long. I mean, that includes Texas and Oklahoma. So
defensively is where they can get beat.
Yeah, and defensively, they struggled last year. Somebody in the chat, and I can't remember if it was Mike, somebody asked what we thought in a neutral field game between Arkansas and Kansas. Well, guess what? The last game of last season was a neutral field contest between Arkansas and Kansas. They played each other in the Liberty Bowl. Arkansas won 55-53. And it was a shootout. Arkansas had 683 yards of total offense. Kansas had 603. So it was back and forth, back and forth. Arkansas had the ball last, and they won. And for the most part, those two teams have everybody back. So I know it's not this season. And I know that Arkansas and BYU's game didn't have Rocket Sanders, but that'll give you an idea of how they compare. I think Arkansas was much better defensively this year than they were last year. I think Kansas will be improved, but they struggled last year. They're 120 plus in scoring defense last year. They had a hard time stopping teams. But guess what? In total defense this year, now mind you, they haven't played a series of juggernauts yet, but they're 20th in the country in total D. That's a huge improvement over last year.
Arkansas found out that, and they had some good stats going in. They just hadn't played anybody.
Right.
And then they played somebody and found that their offensive line wasn't as good as they thought.
Right.
They couldn't run as well as they thought. They couldn't protect the quarterback as well as they thought. And and their secondary gave up some big plays like they hadn't done. Matt from Cleveland, Ohio's watching the Wise Guys. Matt, good to have you with us. There's a few stats that I think are interesting to set this up. And coming up here in a moment, we'll visit with David Lawrence from the Jayhawk Radio Network and get his take on things. But BYU is number 1 in the country in red zone offense.
Yep.
Which means they get inside the 20 and they score every time. They're number 8 in the country in turnover margin, meaning they force turnovers and they don't cough it up. They're number 10 in turnovers lost, too. So that's what helps them be number 8 in turnover margin. Then Kansas, a couple of things that jump off the page. They're number 3 in third down conversions, number 6 in tackles for loss, and number 7 in completion percentage. So some offense, defense right there.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things that stand out. You want to go strength on strength? BYU is one of the best teams in the country in third down conversion defense. And they were phenomenal against Arkansas this last week, as you already pointed out, right, Dave?
Yeah.
2 of 13 for Arkansas in that game. And Kansas is the best, one of the best in the country at converting on third down. That's strength against strength. I want to see who wins that battle. I'm watching that one. We always talk about you got to get off the field when you're on the defense. You need to stay on the field when you're on offense. You got to convert third downs. And BYU's been much better on both sides of the ball on third down this season than they were a year ago. So that's a big one. Turnover margin is huge. We talked about it last week. BYU number 8 in the country. Kansas is neutral. They've given it away as many times as they've taken it away. BYU is +5. That will be a factor in this game. If BYU's plus in turnover margin, it's a huge advantage for them. And then you mentioned all those tackles for loss. Kansas plays an aggressive style of defense. The middle of their defense, their safeties and their backers are really, really aggressive. Their leading tackler is their safety, Kenny Logan, who's been phenomenal. He's 2 straight seasons of over 100 tackles, and he leads his team again this year. And then Grant, the other safety, they are really aggressive. They like to come up and support the run. And then Miller and Brown, their 2 backers, are also really aggressive. But there's some big plays to be made if you can run the football early, get those guys to feel like they've got to be involved in playing downhill to the run game, then that play-action game is there. And I believe there's some big plays to be made over the top. But you got to be able to run it early to be able to do that.
Speaking of running, Jerry's got a question here. I'd appreciate insight on our offensive line play. Is there progress, and how would you grade them thus far? I will say this: they have protected Keaton Slovis pretty good.
Yeah, they're one of the top teams in giving up the fewest sacks in the country. So in pass protection, I'm giving them an A.
What about run?
In the run game, last game early in the game, BYU changed scheme a little bit, and I think it fits this talent a little bit better. So you saw early in the game, especially when BYU was running it effectively, they did more pulling of the offensive linemen and running downhill. So giving L.J. Martin the ball and Deion Smith downhill, running toward the line of scrimmage rather than running parallel. Early in the season, they ran a lot of outside stretch, like some zone type stuff where you run the defensive line along the line of scrimmage and create seams. This offensive line seems to be better at pulling and turning up and kicking out and doubling down. And we saw some of that in this last game against Arkansas, and they were able to open up some good holes. So my answer is I can't give them a run grade for the O-line yet, because I think schematically they made a little adjustment this last week.
Yeah.
And let's see now, with another week of that under their belt, if they can continue to be solid in the run game. I expect them to run the ball better against Kansas than they did against Arkansas. So that one's a work in progress. I'm not giving them an A in run yet.
We'll see where they're at next week. So, Jerry, bring us that question back. A couple of news and notes. The flyover that is set for the game, Air Force F-35s, they're grounded, I think, for another day here in the U.S. After they had that mishap with the jet that they found. At least found the debris back in South Carolina. So an F-35 had gone missing after the pilot jumped out. So we expect the F-35s to be back up in the air. And that would be cool because Major Kyle Baller Benham, 2012 BYU graduate, is leading the flyover over at Memorial Stadium.
So Ballers is call sign, right?
Ballers is call sign. Yeah. So Cougar fans there, look up, and you got a Cougar leading the Jets coming across. And there was a flyover at Arkansas, too. There's nothing better than a flyover before a football game to say, hey, this is a little different. When
I was playing, it would give me kind of goosebumps. When I'm calling a game, it gives me goosebumps. When I'm watching a game, it gives me goosebumps. When I see those Jets fly over, it means it's a big game.
Oh, yeah. BYU's going to wear the all-white unis. DJ's going to put that up and show you. I love this look.
Yeah.
And this is how they're going to roll out on ESPN on Saturday afternoon. All white with some blue royal trim.
And is it silver face mask this week? I think it is, right?
Looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really clean look on the road. So
they never
look faster.
Worn
they look
this.
faster in all white with silver face masks.
So they've worn the whites before, but with those face masks, it makes it unique. So this will be the first time we see this combination on Saturday. David Booth Memorial Stadium, by the way, today announced officially sold out. 47,000.
It's one of the oldest continuous use stadiums in the United States. I think it's the fourth.
And their athletic director, remember we were talking about last week, had said there's going to be a lot of BYU fans at the game. It was encouraging his guys to buy tickets. So it's sold out, and BYU has helped sell that thing out. There's going to be a very strong contingent. I thought the BYU crowd at the Arkansas game was awesome, considering it was on the road. It's in the SEC. Tickets aren't cheap. But by the time that fourth quarter played out and then the team went over to sing the anthem, that whole end section had filled in with royal blue in that red stadium, and it just looks spectacular.
It's funny. Last night I said to Brenda, I was doing some work on Kansas and doing the scouting report and all that for all the shows we have this week. And I said to Brenda, who's your favorite Kansas player of all time? She looked at me like, why would I know that? And I go, you know, come on, you know. Who's your favorite Kansas player of all time? She goes, I don't know. And I said, Gale Sayers. And she goes, oh, Brian Song. Yes, Gale Sayers is my favorite Kansas player of all time. This Kansas program has a great history. You know, we think of Kansas, we think of basketball, but they've been playing football a long time. And it's a historic stadium. It'll be a really fun place for BYU's fans and for BYU's players to get a chance to play in front of 47,000.
There's an interesting family matchup to keep an eye on. BYU receiver Darius Lassiter, who transferred in this last summer, is going to be opposite, as we anticipate, Kansas cornerback Quentin Lassiter, his brother.
Yeah, how about that?
And their late father, was a great player, and now the two sons get to go head-to-head on national TV. I don't know how many times they'll be matched up, but Darius is number 5 for BYU. I don't know what the Quentin's number is for Kansas, but as we're watching that game, that'll be a fun matchup to look at. Brother against brother.
Yeah,
in the Big 12.
That's always fun. That's always fun. I was just looking up Quentin to see what his number is. It looks like he's wearing, is it 6 or 8? He wears 8.
So it's number 5 against number 8?
Yep, number 8. So when you see 5 out there at wide receiver and 8 from Kansas up covering him, that's brother covering brother. That'll be fun.